Hello there, I'm Knightlightnin.
And I'm WhoFartd.
And together we are
Fortnite
Gamers. Okay, disclaimer, we use bad language on this channel and we have offensive content, so if that is not your bag, baby, go to somebody else's channel. We're going to be discussing a few things today. WhoFartd, you got anything to say?
I want to add in, if you got any kids in the room, earmuffs.
Earmuffs, thank you. All right, so there's only really one major thing to talk about today. But if you're interested in a specific subject, we are going to have a special reveal at the end of this episode. Check out the timestamps in the description below, because while we do try to have agendas here, this could go off anywhere in any direction. So, okay. So I got a message today, like the rest of the world did, in the news section that there is this update, July 8th, right here. Now, that's how you find it. I'm actually going to bring up the Discord Disney message that they brought up because it gives more details.
Well, let's back up for 1 second. For those who are not aware, Discord, the Discord app, there's a specific server for Disney Sorcerer's Arena. And on top of all that, it's run by the devs. So it's a great source of information if you're not already using it. So get on it now, because you'll find out a lot more information sooner, and you have some of the best theory crafters out there on that server.
Awesome. Very good point, WhoFartd. Okay. This is what I'm surprised they brought back already. They brought back the Nerf Gun. Now, if you ever want to see our previous episode where this bad boy was introduced the last time, where it inflicts message board complaint madness and butthurt, and it targets the player instead of the characters, but the actual people playing the game, check that out. But I don't know, WhoFartd, what was your kind of just instant reaction reading some of those things we're going to dive deep into?
We definitely hit level 2 on the Nerf Gun. That's my instant reaction.
It's so true.
Now, thankfully, these spells don't hit me hard, but I can name a half dozen people right now who are very, very angry based on some of these changes that are just listed.
Absolutely. So, all right, let's just go through their Discord official news. All right, Metalhead Militia is the guy who sends us everything. All right. So, Microbot Mania event coming, Sorcerer's Trials coming. They're not specific as to what the Sorcerer's Trials are, but maybe we'll get some new ones, maybe not. Just a note, Microbot references the things the main character uses in Big Hero 6, so we have had 2 benched characters in the game. By that, I mean 2 characters in the game that are not playable. We do not have access to their kits yet. So my hope is that they are putting baymax in the game, and we're going to be able to get some Big Hero 6 action. So that is exciting to me.
So okay, so answer me this. I've never seen Big Hero 6. I see the 2 bench characters we have are Mega Man and Masked Ninja. What are their names and what are they?
All right. Well, let's take a look right at that. Okay. So here we go to our bench. So into our collection, just so everybody can see, and basically we're going all the way to the bottom because you cannot get any shards of these characters. So the first one, which is the main character, is Hiro Hamada. He is the guy who invents these things that can attach and do all these crazy things in that's referenced in the Discord announcement, the microbots. But as you see, when you click on anything, there's no kit reveal yet. So my hope he's coming in. The last guy is the antagonist, which is, so I haven't seen the movie in a while. But I do suggest it. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I do suggest Big Hero 6. Yokai. So same thing. This is the villain from Big Hero 6. My guess and hope is he's coming in if there's a microbot event. So that's interesting. Again, it's just like mild speculation because we've gotten this big hint, but we don't know exactly how this is going to unfold. So we'll see what happens. All right. Wild imagination. Let's get into these spell changes. The heal block no longer affects all opponents. Instead, applies to primary target. Chance to apply to adjacent targets. Chance to apply heal block to adjacent targets. Scales from Toy Story allies. Continuous damage no longer applies to all opponents. Now applies to primary target and adjacent targets. Spell now applies fear to primary target and has a chance to apply fear to adjacent targets based on the number of Toy Story teammates. So, WhoFartd, what do you kind of gather from just that piece?
If you spent money, you're really pissed off. I'd say right off the bat, while this follows similar changes that were done for other spells, let's take Dumbo, for example, with the blind, taking it from an AoE application to a primary target with the potential for an adjacent is in line with that. But this will more hit on dad moves than it will hit on wild imagination, in my opinion, because it's got additional mechanics to it. But I just think the devs are screwing up right now. That's my opinion. Is they're taking some spells that were all about evenly ranked, and now they're loading it up so that they're becoming more niche and that they don't have this great application. And they're also allowing these spells to be controlled now by taunters. Because if you're already taunting, that's who's going to get your impact, your heal block, your fear, and dad moves is going to be the same thing, but no longer are you guaranteed to hit the characters that you want to get if there's a taunter out in the field. So you're not applying the heal block to Aladdin. You're not applying the heal block to Jasmine. You're not applying the heal block to Kristoff.
You basically would just be applying it, like if you're going against Frozen Team, you'd be only applying this to Kristoff, essentially.
Exactly.
You know, to your point, the common denominator both last time spells got nerfed and this time, a lot of the common themes are if there's a mass AoE debuff, we're just mainly applying that to the primary target. And it's a little weird because all of these changes basically seem designed specifically just to not hurt the team that Kristoff is on every single time.
Agreed. But I will add in this. Supposedly the devs have come out and said that they view spells as a complementary piece to a team, not a team-defining action. So based on these changes, that's essentially what they're doing, is they're taking spells from being a team, an essential part of a team, and make them complementary to a team. So they have no interest in making OP spells. They just want to make ones that kind of are now niche to a particular team, which is exactly what they did here with Wild Imagination.
Yeah, and look, I think there's some merit to that. Like, I like the idea that Iago gets stronger when you're running Aladdin teammates. I like the idea that Mortal Potion gets stronger when you're running mythical characters, even though I think that spell is not worth going past level 1 almost ever unless they change it. I like the idea with Wild Imagination that they're changing it so that it's pretty good, it's sort of okay, but when you're running with a Toy Story team, it's really solid. But outside of that, I don't know if anybody's going to be playing this in PvP Arena in a few days. I don't know.
I got to agree. So to harken back to the nerdier times when we were young, I like my spells like Wrath of God. I don't like my spells like the dinky ones that come up in certain video games.
Right.
I want something OP. I want to wipe out the board. And if am I remember right, was Wrath of God the one that knocked out all the characters, or was that like Apocalypse or
All
something?
right, so everybody, WhoFartd is referencing the trading card game Magic the Gathering, and Wrath of God's text was destroy all creatures. And I believe they could not, I do not believe they could be regenerated.
Yes, exactly.
There was no golden hammering Wrath of God.
So if you've never owned a 20-sided dice and you've never opened a pack of Magic the Gathering, you probably have no idea what we're talking about.
Right. I think our audiences may be a little older than we may anticipate. So
yes.
All right. So dad moves. Now, let me just say as a disclaimer before we get into dad moves and golden hammer. I just want to show everybody something in my account. I told WhoFartd this because I've been getting like top 10 or 20 in the Sorcerers tournament, so I'm okay. But even if I was in like the top 200, you know, you're not making that much more tournament exchange tokens. You're not getting that much more gems to go crazy. And that is why, for the last 2 months, without being completely sure of what spell I really want to focus on or go all in on, I have been beating the first 9 levels of Tower 3 for the last 2 months, just about. And I have 115,000 Tower Exchange currency. Now, yesterday, on July 7th, I was fighting a Frozen team, and I got so pissed off because the Golden Hammer was used against me 5 times, and I just got timed out. And I don't mind getting beaten by a Frozen team, but just getting timed out from a match drives me crazy. I almost pulled the trigger and just beat the tower and wanted to just farm Golden Hammer right away because I was so jealous. But I was like, I have misgivings about Golden Hammer before these changes. But let me tell you, thank God I stayed away. So all right. And Dad Moves is a devastating spell. I was thinking, hey, if I can get through the next tower, I could start farming that. So Dad Moves used to silence the entire team. It was a great move. It didn't matter what team you're fighting against.
If you didn't have Bucket of Soldiers, it was a devastating move.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point, because if the opponent had Bucket of Soldiers and you're just forced to use basics, you're not really sacrificing too much firepower there.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. I didn't think about that. So Dad Moves no longer inflicts silence on all opponents. Instead, applies silence to primary target, a.k.a. Kristoff, with a chance to apply to adjacent. Chance increases based on number of onward allies. Spell now grants Ian and Barley gain unstoppable. So Ian and Barley, I think, is an amazing character. The ability to eliminate all taunts on the field, I think he could definitely be an amazing addition to break almost any current meta and maybe meta in the future. He could be one of those characters, I think.
So,
but there's only 2 really farmable onward characters, and there's only 3 total. So how much are they really going to be increasing your chances to hit other allies? I mean,
exactly. And then on top of it, am I the only one who's getting really annoyed at having to read the horrible grammar mistakes on the last sentence of Dad Moves?
Spell now grants Ian and Barley gain unstoppable. Well, here's the thing. Let's digress. I was not going to get into this, but there has been something that has been driving me crazy, essentially since the first week I started this game.
There's no E in my name?
The devs cannot figure out what the hell their terminology they want to use is. Like, okay, so in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, when you used a move, it was a special move, it was gone. And you had a timer cool down. Your move had to cool down before your special acquired again, okay? This game isn't technically a cooldown because it's used and then you're building your magic up. That's why you have, Merlin special that increase magic by 1 or 2. And the cauldron, increase magic, because what that's doing is refreshing your special abilities. But I feel like half the kits in the game refer to increase magic by 1 or 2 or whatever, and the other half are, oh, decrease cooldowns by 1. So they have like no like common terminology. Like I know what they mean, but if I'm a layman, this is my first game played like this, I'd be like, well, what's the difference between decreasing, what's the difference between decreasing my cooldowns and increasing my magic? There is no difference. They just don't use the same common language. So, all right, rant over. Let's get into this. So, okay. Spell now grants Ian and Barley gain Unstoppable. That's cool. I like that they gain a benefit from their dad's spell. I like that their dad's pants are giving Ian and Barley a bigger buff than Elsa and Anna and Olaf. I feel really bad for everybody who has farmed this spell like crazy, especially when you consider the conversion rate. Like when you decide you want a particular spell and you want to farm this, or heck, spend real world money. Well, I don't know what the make good is going to be on this.
So this is my issue, and I think I've said this in a previous video. Nerfs should not happen in this game. Nerfs only occur when the devs, and earmuffs for you kids, when the devs fuck up. Because if it's a year from now and you want to make a change, I don't like that, but I could at least understand that because maybe you make other characters. But when you have to make a change within 2 months of releasing this, and you've already beta tested this game, you fucked up. There's no way to come back from that because you've also broken the innate trust people have in spending their hard-earned currencies, whether it be real-world dollars or virtual dollars.
Yeah.
And unless there's a coding mistake or something like that, which that's acceptable, but making a deliberate change within a few days, weeks, months of something coming out, you've fucked up. And it's time for the devs to be held accountable for this. And I don't mean like, let's go fire them, but I mean that there has to be monetary returns to anyone who has spent any form of currency.
Yeah, there's no
or physical every time you make this change. Now, I don't mind if they say, okay, you're given an option, either keep the spell or return your funds. Perfectly okay. Or both if they're generous. But no matter what, there needs to be, if you make a change in any way that's a negative, unless you're buffing something, there should be an offer to return some or all currency every single time this occurs.
Absolutely. Because, and look, any good business owner knows that you don't need the person's money right now. What you need is their money today and a month from now and 2 months from now and years from now. You want that return client. Anybody who's been in business for more than a year really understands this principle. But, you know, you make a really good point. And something that was interesting, you told me, because I thought Dad Moves was overpowered, honestly, but you changed my mind because you said as opposed to something like Dumbo with the blind, Dad Moves didn't do any damage.
Exactly. Its value was the silence across the board, which is fair. It's not, Dumbo does damage plus blind. So the fact that Dumbo could blind everybody made it that much better than anything else. But if its only value at the time is really silence, I don't have an issue with it being an 808.
Well, here's the question. In what situation, let's say you don't have Ian and Marley, or heck, let's say you do. When you run a spell, unless that spell, let's say even that spell charged like a Duke Kaboom, which is exceptionally fast, would you run what spell of yours that you're running now would you take out and put instead inflicting silence on a target likely a taunting target, and for a chance to maybe hit adjacent opponents with doing 0 damage.
I'll be honest. I would have struggled before these changes to put dad moves in. Before these changes. Now, I will never farm this spell ever, unless they come out with Onward 2, and I haven't seen Onward 1, although it looked really promising. So
that is good. Onward is legit.
I'll probably see that one soon. Disney, if it's on Disney Plus, that's probably shortly.
Yeah,
but once Onward 2 comes out, and Onward 3, and Onward 4, because it's Disney and they're going to milk every last dollar out of any good idea they have. And I'm not knocking that, because if it was me, there'd be Onward 7 within like a week.
Exactly.
But until there's those additional characters, I will never find a value for this pre-nerf. And now post-nerf, even if I have 7 Onward characters, I'm probably not using this.
I agree. I can't imagine. And this is the problem, right? I have 115,000 power change currency. Again, I've given up farming up a lot of spells and progressing in the game to do that. So that does come at a cost. But it makes me wonder, honestly, it makes me really fearful to farm up any spell at all. Because I feel like as soon as I start getting something up to level 2, they can just turn around and change it. I almost wish, I'm looking for a spell. They have almost, the strategy I should probably take is look for a spell they just nerfed. Maybe they won't touch that for a while, and if you still like it, go for that one.
So what you hit on is exactly my point. There is no trust in this game for spells. Imagine now you are somebody that's maybe not even a kraken, just a whale. How would you feel spending your hard-earned money, or your parents' hard-earned money, as per most whales, and feeling good about spending it? I wouldn't.
No.
And I highly doubt those who maybe even have lesser means than I, but yet still wailing out, would feel even worse. Kraken's not so much impacted because, they're spending so much. It doesn't move the needle that different. But if you're a whale, or you're less, or what's the lesser term, dolphin?
Dolphins.
Yeah. Why would I spend a single dollar? This is the definition of what happens as a game is on a downward movement, usually in year 5.
Yeah.
Star Wars Galaxy Heroes in particular. I was going to do the cough, but then I realized I didn't care. So Star Wars Galaxy Heroes in particular. This is exactly the issue, the mistrust that was created by the devs. This should not happen in month 4.
Yeah.
There's no excuse. The devs have beyond fucked up. And
yeah, I think, because look, if you want to lift up, if you don't want to, let's say there's a few spells that we believe are overly devastating. I would, as much as possible, try to lift up the other spells to balance out rather than eliminate, or rather than nerf a spell. And the reason I say that is, for people like myself, it's not even as much a thing as how useful something is, but whether the flavor and the kind of experience of using that spell has in playing the game. So if you, like with dad moves, you're going from silence everybody, that's all it did. It did nothing else, to silencing Kristoff with a chance to maybe silence someone else if you're running Ian and Barley and the Manticore or whatever. Like, it's bizarre. And you know what? You said something to me a while ago that was very wise when I had considered spending real money at some point. You said to me, I will not pay money to own a line of code in a game. And that was wise just in that. But beyond that, spending money to own a line of code that is then completely changeable, like it's not even you spend like, okay, $25 to unlock something, right? And at least that code stays the same. You are literally buying almost nothing if that code can just be changed ad hoc. It would be one thing if there was some measure of good faith, to your point. It's 2 years from now and we change a spell. You spent that $25, 2 years ago. Then you'd be okay. But in this situation, maybe you spent money on dad moves in March, and in July, your money is just no good anymore. Retroactively, terrible.
Exactly. Let's put it this way. If you go to a restaurant right now, you order a nice steak, okay? You spend $50, you order a nice steak. And you're getting your filet mignon, you're hungry, you're excited, this is gonna be good. And the waiter puts that filet mignon in front of you. You take one bite, you go, that's delicious. And before you know it, the waiter's taking that away and handed you a small skirt steak. What would you do? You'd say, that's illegal. That's against the law. You can't do that. I'm not finished with my meal. I'm not paying. And you can if you're in a restaurant. Your credit cards protect you. The restaurant's reputation protects you. That's what they've done here. They have, because they hide behind that line of code that they have subject to change.
Yeah.
They've essentially done something that's illegal in the real world.
Yeah, correct.
And hid behind, we're trying to improve the game.
Well, and look, that's unfortunately a reality of the world. I think anybody who's dealt with microtransactions, digital, anything, knows that it's so much easier to get ripped off because there's no brick and mortar you can go complain to. And at a certain point, like if you spend $10, how many hours of your life are you really going to spend complaining and trying to get restitution and this and that? Like at some point, you get to the point you're spending like 6 hours to recoup $10. Like you just wasted your life unless you're earning like, I don't know, some like Tasmanian shekels for a living that have, almost, where $10 is an incredible value to you.
Yeah. And the thing is, while I think lawmakers have much, much, much more important things to worry about right now.
Yeah, correct.
I do applaud the senators who have brought about changes within the microtransaction world to require in many states, and this caused sweeping changes across the board, the odds being placed whenever you're making a purchase.
Correct.
And I think because they are not gamers, they've also missed the second piece of the regulations that are needed from a gaming perspective, and that is retention of value. If you buy something and it's valued at X at that time, now it can downgrade in value because of other things brought out, like it would be in a regular free market, in any type of thing.
Right.
But they can't take away value without introducing a superior product that naturally degrades value. That's
very interesting point. Yeah, you can't depreciate what you spent somebody spent intentionally by 90% inside of a few months.
Now, if you want to sell one product that's clearly a piece of crap because you intend to bring out the deluxe version in 2 weeks, you know what? That's okay. That's what occurs in the real world. But if you release the deluxe product and then you want to release another deluxe product on it, and the only way you make the next one the more deluxe is to take away from the first one, that's where it should be stopped.
Good point. Good point. All right. Let's keep moving here. Golden Hammer, undefeatable and speed meter fill now only applied to downtown heroes. I like this change because I'm tired of right before I kill Elsa, she getting undefeatable. So, but all the people who have Elsa or any other character you want to use this on, that aspect of it is worthless now. Grants undefeatable to download downtown heroes on revive. So look, it still revives. That's still good, okay? But here's the thing. The base charge rate is reduced. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but the way I read that is this used to charge like an Iago spell. Now it's going to charge, I'm guessing, more like a Headless Horseman spell. What do you think?
So I'd like to jump in a couple things. One, clearly all this wording is basically saying frozen people, no. No. Like, this is where if we had memes, there would be a Dikembe Mutombo going like this in front of frozen teams. Exactly. Secondly, I agree. The base charge rate being reduced, to me, screams this is going to be much slower. Now, I don't have a huge issue with that because I thought Golden Hammer, for what it does, was a shade too quick. If that was all that they were doing, that would be okay. But making this essentially now a downtown hero spell, I have a huge issue with that.
Yeah, and then, look, we have to see how this plays out because the last part of this is the bonus charge. There's a bonus charge that's gained on teammates being defeated. So it sounds like your Golden Hammer for that instant before a teammate dies, giving someone undefeatable is just not really going to be a thing unless you're running downtown. But let's say, I don't know, someone does an AoE and like 3 of your guys gets killed. It sounds like maybe then that's the instant in which right away your Golden Hammer spell is going to be charged. So if there's, death going on, that's when the revive goes. We're going to have to see how that plays out because, again, we're just speculating on how this works. But, I mean, in a way, it's kind of cool. With, hey, this is a slow charging spell, but if you're getting annihilated, we'll give it to you a little quicker. So
I don't have an issue with that because to me, if you were to take those last 2 lines, nothing else changes, to me, that's almost a buff. Not really a nerf.
Yeah,
so I don't have an issue.
Above.
To me, those last 2 lines negate each other. So I wouldn't have an issue.
I agree.
If those first 3 lines are not there. Those first 3 lines go back to my central thesis of the devs fucked up. If you're wondering what my feelings are, once again, the devs fucked up.
Okay. Cauldron no longer charges while on the battlefield.
Fine. Perfectly okay with that.
I would be, except the Cauldron is good, but it's not amazing.
But you know what? It never was intended to be an OP spell, and truthfully, no other spell is allowed to charge while it's on the battlefield. So to me, this is just bringing it back into parity. I always assumed the fact that it was charging on the battlefield was actually a coding error, and they were just fixing it.
Right. Now, okay, let's get into some heavy spec here. And now, half my predictions on this channel have been dead wrong, but hear me out on this. Just reading the first page of this thing, right? The Microbot main event is incoming. We know, I believe, that the Big Hero 6 characters are downtown. Wild Imagination is scaled up for you now, only when you're running Toy Story allies, which are downtown characters. Dad Moves, Ian and Barley are downtown characters. There's, for the most part, there's a big common theme here, which to me says, I'm guessing right now the way, if there's like a Baymax event or Big Hero 6 event, you're gonna need downtown heroes, which I don't have a lot of, or I don't have a lot farmed up all the way. And I don't think a lot of people do because there wasn't a lot of incentive to have a lot of downtown heroes.
I'd like to jump in. There is one group that is downtown heroes that has recently come up, and if you spent money,
Oh.
this is a big thank you from Disney. The Fantastics are all downtown heroes. So you
Incredibles,
have
you mean?
5 characters. Yeah, Fantastic. Incredibles, yeah. Them too.
That's a good point. They're all downtown.
They're all downtown. So while these spells might not have called them out specifically, and they might talk Toy Story or onward, Golden Hammer now has value for downtown too.
Yeah, and look, one reason they might be doing this, if we're correct, in that a big Hero 6 event with an incredible unlocked character at the end of it is going to be happening. Maybe one of the reasons they're nerfing Wild Imagination and Dad Moves and Golden Hammer, and specifically trying to get them working in favor for downtown heroes, maybe they want to make this event harder for non-downtown hero holding people to get into.
I'm going to speculate this, and it may be crazy, but they may be employing a strategy of making more money. Now, it may be crazy, but they might have made changes so you spend more and they commoditize the spells. I may be crazy, you know, it may be one of those, like, you know, the world is flat theories, but, you know, throwing it out there.
That's interesting. Now, okay, they added at the end of this, there are no changes. This, I think, is kind of cool but damn it, I'm so sick of almost every edition being on Grand Campaign. There's just, I think I said it in our last video, that it seems like they're creating a Grand Campaign bottleneck, like big time. And now they just added other characters. So they're adding Rafiki to Grand Campaign, which is cool, so you can farm them up and so you can help start to unlock
Scar.
Simba and
Scar.
Then Scar, right? Also, they're adding on the Villains Elite campaign changes, Simba replacing Darkwing Duck. That, I think, is cool because Simba's a great character, and like we said in our last video, we don't want to wait once every like 2 months to farm up Simba. So I'm glad they made those changes.
To me,
also complaints.
To me, and probably this is a bad analogy, putting a good character on a single node is kind of like going to the strip club and finding out that it was one of those ones where they wear some clothes. Because it's like taunting you a little bit. You think you're getting what you think you're going to see something awesome, and then you find out, crap, why did I even waste my time? That's what a single node is, because you're going to get 1 shard a day. So that means in order to get 330 shards, you will spend almost 1 full year farming it. Or you spend your free refresh and you get to do it in 6 months.
God,
whoopee.
that's so bad.
So that's my issue with this, is that I'd rather them not allow me to farm him than tease me about that I can get a piece.
Yeah, and look, I don't remember. I mean, here, look, Villains Campaign, right? Let's go see. I want to say that's yet another 20 energy node. Like
I guarantee you it is. I believe everything from 5 on is a 20 energy.
Yeah. So let's take a look. Yep. It's right there.
Exactly.
20 energy. That is half easy. You know, and that's the thing. It's tough. I'm trying to farm all these people, all these different characters, but you know, when you have so many 20 energy nodes, it's like Oh, I did two characters on those nodes. That was 50 gems in refreshes. Just those two. And maybe I got 2 gems out of that.
Exactly.
It's pretty brutal. They added some characters to the chests, which, you know, whatever. I mean, can't really farm that. And this was weird. This graphic was in the Discord, but not the news in the app itself. This I thought was fascinating. So I think, and this was a post after the last post. So I think they're talking about the mythical stone trials. And this was actually good news, where you can do the first 2 tiers of those sorcerer's trials, just having 2 mythical characters. That's a really cool change, and it kind of acknowledges how few and how hard farming up these mythical characters are.
I completely agree. I think it's a positive move. I think it's something that they're realizing that they put too much controls early on that really only allow these events to be done by whales and krakens, or some people that have gotten really, really lucky with their guesses.
Yeah.
But I would also like to add in, unless you're actively farming some random characters, the odds are you probably only have Hades as your heavy hitter in the mythical world. Maybe you have Oogie Boogie, but the odds are you don't have characters like the Horn King. Or maybe you have Olaf, but Olaf is garbage without the rest of Frozen. Maybe you have Madame Mim because you mistakenly thought she actually had value. Merlin.
I mean, I'm going after Madame Mim and Merlin just because I like those characters. Same reason I was going after Sally and Oogie Boogie. So I just happen to be working on them a little bit. So maybe by the time the next Sorcerer's Trials drops, I will have maybe Madame Mim and Merlin just barely at the level.
But here's the problem. Merlin's a complementary character, which Merlin works great in certain teams. So I'm not knocking Merlin. But Merlin's value is what he does to other characters, because you need a couple butt kickers. And let's take...
You can. One caveat I have discovered in pumping up Merlin a little bit, because I was... You know, in those daily challenges, the support one, I can't even beat the last level. I can barely beat the second to last level because my support, I think for the most part, we can say the support character in this game, except for like maybe Anna, are like trash. And characters that are really support, like Facilier, for some reason, are coded as offense-based characters.
Yeah.
Which makes no sense.
Nobody's using Facilier to be...
The one guy who does literally no damage, like at all, is coded as offense. But what I did is I increased my... Right, so Ready or Not can stun, right? And use your head ability I have at level 2. So the way this works is when I'm fighting Shere Khan, I use Merlin, and I use Ready or Not and stun Shere Khan.
Wait, you're fighting who?
Shere Khan.
Who's that?
The tiger in the support challenge.
Oh, you mean Shao Kahn.
Shao Kahn, yeah. Shere Khan. I see what you did there. That was good. Okay. But I use a special off the bat. I stun him. But because of the charge time of these, which is 4 each, the next turn I use your head on Merlin himself. And I have my Ready or Not ready to go. So you can use Merlin just on himself, where you're stunning every other turn. On one turn, you're doing nothing, but on the other turn, you're stunning a character.
So in other words, Merlin is Merlin is the Stone Cold Steve Austin of the Disney world.
He's just handing out those Stone Cold Stunners. Exactly.
His finishing move after he's done and wins, he should be popping a couple beers. I'm just saying.
But here's what I was thinking too. This makes sense in one way too, because there's no reason that wilds should inherently be more useful than mythical characters in this game. And in the wild sorcerer's trials, you are unlocking 3 potential types of stones, as opposed to the mythical trials, where you're only unlocking 2. So if you're like me and you don't have the wilds, but you might have the mythical, you're screwed because you're getting 2 out of the 6 potential, speed not being released yet, but let's count it, versus the wilds where you're getting 3 out of the 6. So I like that they kind of scaled this down a bit so that, hey, even though you're not going to get as much out of this potentially, because there's only 2 types of stones you can get, your requirements are not going to be as heavy. So that's kind of nice. Moving into our fake news section of this channel, because I think it's time to do so. We actually got a hacker. He hacked the devs. He is named zerocool, and he hacked the planet, and he hacked the devs, and he found in the code the dev that is responsible for all of the nerfing that is going on in this game. And they found his name is none other than Wayne Szalinski of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Suburban Tag.
Big shout out to Dave Murphy for bringing this forward to us.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, zerocool. So, since Wayne Szalinski has some hard-on on nerfing spells, and this is what he likes to do, he digs in with that magnifying glass, looking for the next spell to target. His basic is Honey, finish this for me, WhoFartd. Honey, I what?
Emptied your wallet.
Honey, I emptied your wallet. That's great. Honey, I nerfed your spell. Honey was mine.
Or otherwise known as Honey, I Shrunk the bank account.
I shrunk the bank account. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Now, his first special of Wayne Szalinski, this mysterious dev, is Epiphany. And I have an epiphany. What could this epiphany be, WhoFartd? What do you think?
I think that this is going to be kind of like a buff that goes out to everyone on the team that is some scientific-based buff. I haven't quite, conceptualized this idea, but maybe it is the opposite. The epiphany is how to make people giant-sized, and all your characters are now giant-sized.
Yeah, I have. To your point, I have an epiphany. We can actually, yeah, maybe this ties into your basic idea, right? Honey, I stole the cash from your wallet, and my epiphany is that I can steal cash from your wallet. Honey, my epiphany is I can get rich.
So in other words, you would potentially lose gems as part of this move?
It's quite possible. I mean, you're trading message board hate for gems from the devs, right? It's that trade-off. His second special is called Shrink Ray, and I think this Shrink Ray is added onto the spells. He is essentially shrunken all of the viability of dad moves, potentially Golden Hammer, and Wild Imagination. Honey, I shrunk your spells. Honey, I shrunk your wallet. All that money you spent in the game. We found a way to further depreciate that asset line of code you thought you owned.
You paid $10, you know it's now worth $1, and we're going to shrink that to 10 cents.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, his passive ability, now, fun fact, Wayne Szalinski in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids almost ate his children through a cereal bowl. His passive ability is don't eat me. Now, here's the thing. A passive is something that's always going on. Always going on. So is this, maybe this is an outcry from spells that are just constantly, like, see this giant, big Szalinski in the air with this magnifying glass, just waving off to their friends, no, don't eat me. Don't eat the spell. Please. I can't give
Maybe
it another
this
bite.
passive is just the chance that the spell might go back to normal. That you have a random chance, like 20% chance for the spell to go back to its pre-nerf state for the next time you use it.
I almost see it like someone begging, don't eat my Tower Exchange currency.
So I've got a deep philosophical question for you to think about, and all our listeners. Wayne Szalinski almost ate his kids when they were in the Cheerios. If had Wayne Szalinski actually eaten at least one of the children unknowingly, but because of his reckless actions with the shrink ray, would he get charged for manslaughter or would he not?
That's a good question. I would definitely say reckless endangerment is a thing, for sure.
I'd have to agree. I don't think that he would knowingly do it. I don't think a court of law would find him guilty of that. But definitely reckless endangerment. He's doing 5 to 10 in my opinion.
Here's the real question. Did his son or daughter taste better, and why?
I would say, wasn't the neighboring kid a little chubby, like the younger neighboring kid? I'm assuming the fattier the kid, the tastier.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I mean,
because both of his kids were a little too skinny. Like, I don't think you're going to taste much flavor.
No, but, you know, could be like, I don't know, an exotic French dish. Not a lot there, but quite a lot of flavor.
This is where, if I was him, I would have jumped into the Star Wars universe and shrunk Porkins and ate him instead. He probably is tastier.
Yeah, it could be. Oh, man. All right. WhoFartd, we got anything else? I mean, I don't know. We can, just to wrap up, I think we said a lot about the distrust zone here, but I honestly hope at least the people who, you know, shelled out all that Tower Exchange currency gets that return. I hope people who may have purchased these spells with real world money can get refunded. That at least would give me some good faith belief that I could expend my Tower Exchange currency without Wayne Szalinski going through my code and shrinking my spells shortly afterwards.
Completely agree. And I'd like to sum up this video in 3 key points. Point 1, devs fuck up. Point 2, Big Hero 6 incoming, get excited.
Yeah.
Point 3, Wayne Szalinski doing 5 to 10, but not getting found guilty of manslaughter.
That's right. Thank you, zerocool. We appreciate your efforts. Hack the planet.
Hack the planet.
All right, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please like, please subscribe, and feel free to leave us some comments in the comment section. Have a great evening, and we will see you and see what happens when we wake up on July 9th.